One of my most anticipated video games of the year, guys, is Watch Dogs Legion. I'm really excited about this game, and for a number of reasons. I like the Watch Dogs franchise as a whole, but when I started seeing the reveal of Watch Dogs Legion, it got me immediately excited. I kind of love the post-Brexit style and like the locations and all of that stuff within Watch Dogs Legion make this seem like a really interesting and probably one of the best, Watch Dogs games to date. And so I'm really excited about it. Hopefully it lives up to my expectations. I know a lot of you out there are really, excited about this game as well. In this first segment of the show, though, I want to talk about the top 5 things that we want out of Watch Dogs Legion. When I say we, guys, I'm going to be mainly talking about myself here, but I know some of you may share similar opinions to what I'm going to be giving all of you. And if you don't agree with my opinions and what the top 5 things I want, I'd love to hear your top 5 things that you guys would like to see in Watch Dogs Legion in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So coming in at number 1, guys, for me, out of the top 5 things that I want out of Watch Dogs Legion, number 1 would be a new story, but with ties to the original games. And so look, I love, when we talk about franchises, guys, as a whole, I love playing, different locations and all of those different things, having kind of new stories, new characters, so on and so forth. But one thing I really like as well is at some point within that franchise, I want things to kind of start, connecting to one another in one way, shape, or form. And I don't know how they would do it necessarily with Watch Dogs Legion, but I do believe that they could obviously do it in a number of different ways, say near the end of the game or in the middle of the game, wherever it might be, even if it's just kind of, some segments of the game that have kudos to the original couple of, Watch Dogs games. I think that would be something really special to me. I obviously want kind of a new story, and I'd like to, have, we go on this journey, and even if it was like, a follow-up to Watch Dogs 2, like a direct follow-up, I'd be okay with that as well. But I just like the idea of having kind of a new story, some new characters, and, obviously something along the lines where it ties into the original 2 games. But that's number 1, guys. At number 2, that kind of leads me into this, which is new locations, new characters, and new enemies. So obviously we talked about we kind of want a new story, but with a new story is going to come new characters, typically speaking, guys. You're going to have some new characters, which obviously I want to have like a balance, right? You might want to have some characters that seem familiar, like from the other games. You also want those new characters that you can that can grow on you, and characters that you end up really liking or disliking throughout the course of the story. And then, of course, guys, having new locations, which obviously we're going to be getting some new locations, which is absolutely awesome. And I think that even having new enemies is going to be really important throughout the course of this next upcoming story in Watch Dogs Legion. Having all of those things, guys, can really make up the groundwork where, this isn't Watch Dogs 3. This is Watch Dogs Legion. And that's why I believe, guys, that when we look at the first 2 Watch Dogs games, they had, there were things about them that, each one kind of played off of one another in a couple of ways. And, there wasn't a lot of, I felt that they didn't take a lot of chances with Watch Dogs 2. With Watch Dogs Legion, they're almost kind of putting this as kind of a side story almost to the other 2 games, even though this is, the 3rd installment, of the main series here. I still think, though, that it's called Watch Dogs Legion. It's not called Watch Dogs 3. So I think that there's a reason for that, and we'll have to kind of see what that all is. But I think with new characters, new enemies, and new locations, it's going to make for something really special. Coming in at number 3, guys, I want a full open world with this story. I think we can probably expect at least a semi-open world. It's hard to tell whether or not how open this world actually is. It looks like it's a pretty open world, though, from the gameplay and the trailers and things of that nature, but I would like a full open world. This would be something that would be really special, I think, for Watch Dogs Legion to kind of set it apart, but also to really have more things that we can do within this world. Exploration and just like, a bunch of different side missions and ways in which we can come back to the game. Which leads me to number 4, guys, which is more multiplayer modes and new, more variety of what we can kind of expect from the multiplayer aspect of Watch Dogs Legion. Look, you know, Watch Dogs 2 had some interesting concepts with multiplayer modes, but I think that they need to have some more traditional types of multiplayer modes that make it a little bit easier for people to kind of connect with and such. And I love like the variety that they had in Watch Dogs 2, but I think that they should expand upon that in Watch Dogs Legion and maybe have some game modes that are more familiar to the shooter genre, the third-person shooter genre, whatever you may want to take from it. But I think that they absolutely could do that, and having multiplayer modes, once again, is going to bring us back to the game over and over again, especially if they're good, and, you know, after we're done with the story and such. And so I think that's incredibly important to have in Watch Dogs Legion. And then rounding it out, guys, at number 5, I think this kind of ties into the multiplayer, is having unlockable items as well as some earnable items as well. So when I look at the trailers for Watch Dogs Legion, it looks like there's just so many customization options for your characters, for the other characters that are within the world and such. And I think that in the multiplayer aspect and multiplayer realm will be absolutely awesome. Having earnable items that you can earn throughout your progress of whether it's the campaign, side stories with like if you want to play some co-op missions with your friends, or doing multiplayer, and having those unlockable items would be absolutely awesome. But having earnable items as well throughout the course of, you know, playing the multiplayer and such, while you're, you know, in the leaderboard or you're kind of in the waiting room to join a match, I think it would be really cool to have, you know, your title and your emblem that shows how much time you've put into the game, like your rank and such as a hacker or whatever it might be, right? And I think other people being able to see that, it'll give you more reason to keep coming back to the multiplayer aspects of the game, and just all in all, just put more time into the game as a whole so that you get some of those earnable items. And at the end of the day, guys, we know that when we look at microtransactions, those are things that are most likely going to be in every game moving forward overall. However, you know, I think that having earnable items sets it apart from having those microtransactions, because if you have earnable items that you can't pay for, then it's going to give people more reason to try to earn those things. So that could be something really special. But all in all, guys, I'm very excited for Watch Dogs Legion. These are the 5 things that I mainly would like to see in Watch Dogs Legion. And one other one, guys, is I would love to see one of the aspects of this game to be free to play for everyone. That being like the multiplayer modes. I would love to see multiplayer free to play, at least for, you know, some time for everyone else to try it out. And maybe the story and such you have to pay for, right? The $60 price tag. But I think it would be really cool to have some free to play, you know, concepts in Watch Dogs Legion to help really grow this fan base out in a major way. You look at games like Call of Duty, that's, you know, one of the biggest games in the world, has Warzone, you know, as a free-to-play mode, you know, Fortnite and all these other games that are free-to-play, guys. I think that having at least some modes within Watch Dogs Legion should definitely consider doing the free-to-play concept. But with that, guys, I want to hear your top 5 things that you guys want to see in Watch Dogs Legion. Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Watch Dogs Legion content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.